Ladies and gentlemen, pause. Not next week, not tomorrow, but right now, right this moment. We are stepping into territory that none of us has ever mapped. Picture this. I once stood in the same room as Nelson Mandela, and I promise you, when he walked in, the air changed. That moment felt colder, sharper, weighty. You remember those moments when history actually walks into the room. That is exactly where we are. Not 7 years from now. Asterisk right now. We live in an age where the familiar has become irrelevant. What we once called structure is now a slow-moving liability. The safe path, the roadmap followed by generations, has become the fastest route to mediocrity. The institutions, the systems, the hierarchies, they're all trembling under the pressure of relentless innovation. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Disruption is no longer the exception. It is no longer the anomaly. It is the new normal. You see, for decades we were trained to find comfort in predictability. Forecasts, plans, projections, spreadsheets with rows and rows of certainty. But tell me, how do you forecast a future that is being rewritten by the hour? How do you manage stability in a world that thrives on velocity? You don't. You adapt or you disappear. The danger is not disruption itself. The danger is in being so obsessed with preservation that we forget to evolve. Because when everything around you is changing and you are not, you become the disruption's casualty. Let me put it another way. The ones who lose in this new world are not the uneducated, the undercapitalized, or even the unlucky. The ones who lose are the ones who insist on doing things the way they've always been done. A few years ago, a company could run on the strength of its brand. Legacy alone could keep you alive. Today, legacy means nothing if it isn't matched with speed, agility, and innovation. In fact, legacy can be your greatest weight. It ties you to the past while the present demands reinvention. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about throwing away values. I'm talking about evolving the vehicle while keeping your mission alive. You don't get points anymore for having been first. You only win if you remain relevant. This is a world where teenagers with smartphones can build platforms faster than entire departments in Fortune 500 companies. A 17-year-old with a laptop is competing with conglomerates. Think about that. They don't need permission. They don't ask for a meeting. They don't wait for policy. They just build, ship, learn, repeat. And while most people are still waiting for the right time, someone else is already shipping version 5. Disruption doesn't knock anymore. It doesn't send an email. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It walks in unapologetically and changes the game while you're still warming up. If you're not uncomfortable, you're already falling behind. Comfort is the slowest form of failure. It feels good while it kills your relevance. And here's what nobody tells you. Disruption is not just about tech. It's not just about apps, AI, or blockchain. Disruption is also cultural, emotional. It's in how people think, how they buy, how they lead, how they dream. The values of the market have shifted. Customers no longer just want products. They want connection, they want meaning, they want speed. People don't follow leaders anymore. They follow courage. They follow honesty. They follow those who see further than the rest and aren't afraid to burn the old maps. What we need now are not managers. We need leaders. Leaders who can think beyond the quarter. Leaders who aren't just chasing profits but building movements. Leaders who know that true disruption isn't about destruction. It's about creative reinvention. It's not about breaking things for the sake of chaos. It's about rethinking what's possible. So let me ask you, what are you holding on to that is slowing you down? What traditions, what models, what beliefs have outlived their usefulness? Because until you let go, you cannot take off. Until you embrace the chaos, you cannot lead in it. Disruption rewards those who dare to think differently, move fast, and act decisively, even when the path isn't fully clear. The world has changed. It will not wait for your board meeting, your team alignment, or your 5-year plan. It demands boldness now. It demands clarity now, and it rewards those who understand that being disrupted is a choice. Because the only thing worse than change is irrelevance. Disruption is the new norm, and if you're not riding the wave, you're under it. We are living in the most accelerated age of opportunity the world has ever seen. For the first time in human history, access has been democratized. The barriers that once separated the privileged from the persistent have been shattered. What once belonged to the powerful few is now available to the relentless many. That is not poetry. That is reality. Scale is no longer limited by borders. You don't need a passport to reach global markets. You don't need a factory to build an empire. All you need is connection, conviction, and clarity. Today, a boy in Lagos can launch a business that serves clients in New York. A young woman in Karachi can teach coding to students in Berlin. A content creator in Nairobi can influence a generation in London. Scale is not a question of geography anymore. It is a question of mindset. But here's the twist. Access means nothing if you don't have the hunger to use it. We now live in a world where the tools are available to everyone, but not everyone will win. Why? Because some are still waiting for permission, still hoping someone else validates their potential, still waiting for the ideal conditions. Let me tell you this, the world doesn't reward potential. It rewards action, and in a world where access is free, those who move first, those who move fast, eat first. There was a time when your last name mattered more than your first step, when your connections meant more than your competence. That time is dead. Today, it is your skill, your execution, your story that travels across borders. Talent has always been global, but now opportunity is too, and the only thing standing between you and impact at scale is the decision to act. I've walked into boardrooms where billion-dollar deals are made by people who still sleep on couches. I've seen founders pitch game-changing ideas from Wi-Fi cafes using borrowed laptops. I've met builders, thinkers, rebels who understand something the rest of the world is still trying to catch up to. You don't need to own the ladder anymore to reach the top. You just need to know where the walls are weakest. That's the revolution. That's the shift. Because when you have scale and access in your hands, the question changes. It's no longer can I make it. It becomes what legacy will I leave? What dent will I make in this universe of noise, of speed, of saturation? And that's where most people fail. They confuse visibility with value. Just because everyone sees you doesn't mean you're building something that matters. Scale without purpose is just vanity. Access without depth is just noise. But when you combine access with intention, when you bring purpose to your platform, something powerful happens. You no longer need to beg for attention. The world comes to you because people follow clarity. They follow leaders who understand how to wield access responsibly and scale sustainably. Not everything that grows is healthy, and not everything that is loud is leadership. That's the distinction you must master. This moment right now, it's a gift. It's a rare convergence of technology, talent, and time. You can publish a book without a publisher. You can start a company without a bank loan. You can teach a class, sell a product, build an audience, raise capital, close deals. Without stepping outside your home, you can build scale at the speed of thought. But speed without direction is destruction. Access without depth is distraction. The winners are not the ones with the most followers. The winners are the ones who understand how to convert attention into impact, who know how to turn scale into substance, who realize that access is not the finish line, it's the starting point. Because when you finally get the world to listen, the next question is, what are you going to say? Don't be fooled. This moment we're in is not normal. It's not permanent. It's not promised. The gates are open now. But they won't be open forever. The algorithms will change. The platforms will shift. The tools you rely on today may disappear tomorrow. That's why it's not enough to have access. You must build ownership. You must build systems. You must build value that outlives platforms. And so I ask you, in a world where you can reach anyone, serve anyone, speak to anyone, who are you becoming? What are you building that deserves scale? Because once the spotlight is on you, there's no hiding. Once you have access, there's no excuse. And once you understand what's possible, the only thing left is the courage to do the impossible. The game has changed. Scale is limitless. Access is borderless. The only limit left is the one in your mind. Break it. There are moments in your life that don't just happen, they land. They arrive with such weight, such intensity, that everything around you goes still. The noise fades, the distractions dissolve, and all that's left is that unmistakable, ice-cold presence of history being made. I remember walking into a room once, not a grand hall, not a stadium, just a room, and as soon as the person stepped in, the temperature dropped. Not physically, not by degrees on a thermometer, but in spirit. You could feel it in your bones. The room tightened, spine straightened, eyes locked forward. That's not charisma. That's not performance. That's what happens when history is no longer a story we read. It's a force that stands in front of you. That is power without noise. That is legacy without introduction. We have been conditioned to believe that history is something far away, something old, something behind us, a chapter we study, not a moment we live. But the truth is, history is not distant. It's immediate. And the most dangerous mistake you can make is to miss the fact that you might already be living inside one of those moments. The world doesn't declare its great turning points in real time. It doesn't give you a warning. It doesn't send a memo. It just changes, quietly, slowly at first, then all at once, the fall of empires, the birth of movements, the collapse of industries, the rise of new leaders. These things never arrive with trumpets. They arrive in whispers, in decisions, in tension, and only the alert can feel it. Only the tuned-in can sense when the room has shifted, when the normal has ended, when something irreversible is beginning. If you're paying attention right now, you can feel it, in politics, in business, in culture, in leadership. The ground is shaking not violently, but inevitably. The rules are being rewritten. What used to make you powerful is now irrelevant. What used to make you credible is now questioned. You can't lean on your title. You can't hide behind your resume. The world is demanding substance, clarity, honesty, and it can smell the fake from a mile away. This is not just change. This is transition. And there's a difference. Change is something you recover from. Transition is something you're transformed by. And in moments of true transition, leadership cannot be borrowed. It cannot be inherited. It must be forged. Real leaders are not born when times are easy. They are revealed when everything is uncertain. When the lights go out, when the crowd disappears, when the plan crumbles, that's when the presence of true leadership walks in. History doesn't ask you if you're ready. It shows up anyway. The question is not whether you want to be part of it. The question is whether you'll be remembered as someone who rose to meet it, or someone who hesitated and faded into the footnotes. That's the burden of living in a time like this. You don't get to opt out. You either show up or you get moved aside. Every generation is given a moment that defines it, a crisis, a breakthrough, a reckoning. Something that forces us to stop being comfortable spectators and start becoming intentional creators. This is one of those moments, and I say that not with hype, but with absolute certainty. You can feel it. In the boardrooms, in the streets, in the silence between conversations, we are standing in something significant, and most people don't even realize it. But you do. You feel it when you look at the world, and nothing makes sense the way it used to. You feel it when you see the gap between potential and performance, between noise and truth. You feel it in the pressure to do more, be more, stand for more. That is not stress, that is calling. That is the sound of history knocking at your door, waiting to see if you'll answer. So what will you do? Will you fold because things are hard? Or will you rise because things matter? Will you protect comfort, or will you pursue legacy? Because make no mistake, these are not just times of change. These are defining times, and the ice-cold presence you feel isn't fear. It's the chill of legacy whispering, this is your moment. You don't need the world to name you. You don't need permission. What you need is the awareness that this moment matters and the discipline to rise into it. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. History is not waiting, neither should you. You can have the best product. You can craft the most brilliant strategy. You can analyze the market, track the trends, build the perfect funnel, and model every possible scenario in Excel. But if your work lacks emotive intent, you're just making noise in a world that's already deafened by too much of it. This generation doesn't follow logic. It follows meaning. It follows energy. People are no longer buying what you sell. They're buying why you sell it. They're not joining companies. They're joining missions. They're not scrolling for content. They're scrolling for connection. And the leaders, brands, and builders that will own the future are those that understand this one truth. Emotion drives action far more than information ever will. We've been taught to lead with the head, but movements are born in the heart. Numbers don't spark revolutions. Algorithms don't inspire loyalty. People don't rally behind spreadsheets. They rally behind a cause. Behind a voice that makes them feel seen. Behind a story that reminds them who they are. You want to build loyalty. Speak to the soul. You want to drive change. Stop being clever. Start being real. Emotive intent is not weakness. It's not soft. It's not decoration. It is strategy, and in the hands of a disciplined mind, it becomes a weapon, a force multiplier. It turns average messages into memorable moments. It turns employees into evangelists. It turns customers into communities, because when you speak with emotion, you don't just communicate, you connect. And connection is the most underpriced currency in the world right now. People will forget what you said. They'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That's not theory, that's truth. And if you're building anything in this world, business, a brand, a movement, you better understand that every touchpoint is emotional. Every ad, every caption, every email, every conversation. It's not just communication, it's energy. And if your energy doesn't land, your message never will. Here's the problem. Too many people are trying to sound smart instead of trying to be felt. Too many leaders are hiding behind jargon, behind slides, behind polished pitches. But in a world that's starving for authenticity, perfection is a liability. People don't want the clean version of you. They want the real one, the one with scars, the one with conviction, the one that believes in something deeply enough to fight for it. You know why most strategies fail, because they never leave the whiteboard. They sound good in theory but carry no emotional weight, and what carries no emotional weight carries no momentum. That's why so many brilliant ideas die, not because they weren't logical, but because they weren't felt. They didn't move people, and if you can't move people, you can't move results. Let's talk about leadership. You think people follow leaders because of titles? No. They follow leaders because of how those leaders make them feel. Safe, seen, challenged, inspired, that's emotive intent. You walk into a room and people straighten up, not because they fear you, but because your presence awakens something in them. That is what separates those who lead from the front from those who hide behind org charts. Your team doesn't need another presentation, they need a reason to believe. Your clients don't need more features, they need a reason to care. The market doesn't need more content, it needs clarity with conviction. That is the edge, that is the advantage, that is the difference between being heard and being followed. This isn't about being emotional. This is about being intentional with emotion, knowing when to hold it, when to unleash it, when to lead with strength, when to lead with vulnerability, when to break the silence not just to speak, but to ignite. Because that's the thing. When you lead with emotive intent, people don't just listen. They act, they take risks. They buy in, they stay longer, they fight harder, not because they have to, but because they want to, because you've tapped into something that spreadsheets can't measure and strategy decks can't fake, the human need to feel something real. So if you're still leading with logic alone, let me tell you what's coming. Someone with less data, fewer resources, and a louder heart is about to run circles around you, not because they're smarter, but because they understood something you didn't. That emotion is not the enemy of execution. It is the engine behind it. Speak to the mind and you'll be remembered. Speak to the heart and you'll never be forgotten. Most people will live their entire lives trapped in the cycle of ordinary. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat, safe decisions, average ambitions, dreams so small they don't scare anyone, not even the person dreaming them. They live in the shallow end of potential because deep water makes them uncomfortable. They confuse movement with progress, busy with tasks but empty of purpose, and that's fine if all you want is survival. But if you're serious about transformation, if you're serious about building a life, a business, a legacy that matters, then survival is no longer the goal. You must evolve from ordinary to exponential. Exponential is not just about growth, it's about mindset. It's about moving from addition to multiplication, from doing what's required to doing what's possible, from fitting in to standing so far out that they can't categorize you. That shift is violent, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't come gently. It demands that you let go of everything that made you blend in and grab hold of everything that makes you break through. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Ordinary is easy. Ordinary is predictable. Ordinary is comfortable. The world is designed to reward it. Schools teach it. Offices breed it. Systems protect it. You want to go unnoticed. Be ordinary. You want to avoid criticism. Be ordinary. You want to stay liked by everyone. Be ordinary. But here's the cost. Nobody remembers ordinary. When you walk the path of the exponential, the terrain changes. Suddenly, the tools that worked for you at one level no longer serve you. You stop managing problems and start building systems. You stop thinking in days and start thinking in decades. You stop asking, is this good enough? And start demanding, is this necessary for the next level? You want to know what separates the people who make it from those who watch. It's not talent, it's not money, it's audacity, the belief that you were not born to do average things, the decision to stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, the refusal to apologize for being too bold, too fast, too intense, too focused. Exponential thinkers don't chase perfection. They chase progress at speed. They understand that done is better than perfect, and iteration beats hesitation. They move, they ship, they learn again. Again, while the rest of the world is stuck debating, they're disrupting. While others are planning, they're producing. While others are rehearsing, they're already on stage. Let me be clear. Exponential does not mean reckless. It means clear, it means fast, and it means unapologetically committed. It's about creating disproportionate results with focused effort. It's the founder who turns one product into a platform, the leader who turns one moment into a movement, the builder who sees 10 steps ahead while others are still stuck figuring out step 2. But that kind of growth comes with a price. You have to give up the safety net of maybe. You have to stop asking for permission to do what you know you're capable of. You have to embrace the possibility that people will not understand you, that they will resist you, that they will label you arrogant, obsessive, overambitious. Let them talk, let them whisper. Let them question. You're not building for applause. You're building for impact, for legacy, for the version of you that refuses to die ordinary. The exponential journey is not for everyone. It demands obsession. It demands stamina. It demands that you run while others are still stretching, that you build while others are still doubting. But when you do it, when you lean in, when you commit, when you burn the backup plan, everything changes. You stop chasing opportunities and start creating them. You stop fitting into rooms and start commanding them. You stop negotiating with fear and start confronting it head on. And slowly, without announcement, you move from being another name to becoming a standard. You don't have to be born into it. You don't need permission for it. You just have to choose it every single day, to think bigger, to act bolder, to move faster, because you were not built for average. You were built for exponential. And until you believe that, you'll stay on the sidelines, watching others live the life you know deep down you were meant to lead. So here's the call. Stop building for comfort. Start building for consequence. The world has enough ordinary. It's time you made the leap. So let me be clear. This is unlike anything we've seen before. Not in technology, not in scale, not in impact. It is a moment in time when leadership, creativity, courage, and conviction are your only currency.